Hello everyone and welcome back to In the Greenhouse, the relaxing little behind the scenes series here with Seri as we discuss things going on in our community, some personal facts about myself, some personal facts about you guys. We talk about the amazing plants and animals that share our planet with us, and sometimes we discuss some of the behind the scenes bits and pieces about the many amazing adventures and series that we have running on our channel. And today I have some very beautiful new flower varieties to show you. You guys ready? You guys ready? Let's go in the greenhouse. Ta-da! Look at these guys! Look at these guys! Oh my gosh, these lemon bushes are just so beautiful. I don't know if we've had this particular variety before. Oh, no, we haven't. That's a little fuzzy seed. See, that little fuzzy seed was these two combined. So isn't that amazing that we got the pink flowers out of combining the Venus fan orchid and, oh, what's that one called again? The citrus lemon bush, I think? I can't believe I'm actually starting. Oh my gosh, I think I added too much plant growth stuff to the citrus maple. Holy moly. You could probably make like 8 giant pitchers of lemonade just with this one tree. Wow. Wow. I'm gonna propagate that just because I want to laugh every time I look at the seeds. That's amazing. Alright, and we're gonna propagate this one just to have a pure strain of it too. And our mellow weeper, I've been crossbreeding, and I crossbred this one with our beautiful rare oak rose bush. So these guys are some of my favorites. So it'll be really fun to see what that turns into. And we also have a new venomous plant, the venomous bamboo. I'm not really interested in following through too much on the venomous plants, but I do want to see what they might produce. So we're going to crossbreed that one. Then we're going to up the price on this beautiful little guy. I mean, look at all those flowers. Whoop, that was a flyby dragonfly. Whew. But look at all these beautiful flowers. I mean, that has to be worth something. Come on, we're gonna, yeah, that's better. Let's see if we can convince people to pay that much. Oh, and then the mellow bamboo, come on. That's worth at least 50 buckaroos. Let's sell those. We'll keep this mellow weeper just for now. I think we've got plenty of Venus. Yeah, we've got plenty of Venus fan leaf. In fact, they're selling very well, so let's up the price on them too. Plenty of those, and then everyone else is pollinated and growing beautiful new plants for us. So let's pop into the nursery. Oh wait, what about you? What are you doing? You're mature? We're gonna sell you and pop in the nursery. Doink. There we go. Alright, everything's open. Oh, I love our beautiful nursery. I wish we could get more upgrades for it, but we have all the upgrades. So now we just need to work on finding some of the new plants. And with the amazing questions and interesting comments that you guys leave in all of our greenhouse videos for me to answer, we have plenty of time to discover more of those plants. So let's jump into it. Very excited to see what's going on in our comment section today. We've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work, building the website, building the community, looking into things. I'm so excited. You guys come up with some of the most amazing ideas, and being able to try to nurture and grow your creativity is one of the best aspects of all of this. It really is what makes me just want to dance when I jump out of bed every morning. I definitely think I would be a very happy teacher, which is great because it really helps that I love that since I share my life with an amazing professor. As in like he is a professor, not like he's my professor. That would be really weird. No. He is a professor, my darling. Which is so weird. I can't believe we're old enough now where he can actually be a college professor. Just a minute ago, we were just college students, and it just shifts that fast. You know, you think college professor, and that's super old, and like, no, we're just 26, both of us. And he's a college professor, and I am a YouTuber. That's what I do now. What a weird word, YouTuber. YouTuber. I didn't even know what that word was a year ago. YouTuber, huh? I like to think of myself as an educational entertainer. That's what I tell people, and they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I make educational entertaining video game, like using video games as a medium. I try to teach people, and that's what we do here. And so today we're going to dig into some of the questions that have to do with that entertainment and with the animals. For example, Gabriel asked, what is my favorite extinct sea creature? And this is going to be exceptionally cliche, but it's still Megalodon. I know, isn't that horrible? That's partially because I only know a few extinct sea creatures, and just a handful, because I'm not very well versed in prehistoric lore. Lore being a very casual way of meaning biology, history, etc. But yeah, my favorite is still Megalodon because it's just, I've always loved sharks. I've had a fascination with sharks ever since I was very young. Yay, they're selling for these high prices. That's wonderful. And I mean, you can't really get much more shark than Megalodon. I would love to have a tooth, or I actually thought about it really hard and I'm like, you know, you might lose a tooth, and a Megalodon tooth of the size and quality that I'm interested in would actually be like $500 on like the cheap end for a collector's variety. And I thought about that and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to spend that much money, so I'm actually looking into spending $20 on a fairly sized, exceptionally accurate replica, because the reason I would want to have a Megalodon tooth is to use as a teaching tool. So Megalodon, definitely one of my favorites. There's an aquarium here in North Carolina, Ripley's Aquarium. Oh, I guess that's in South Carolina, actually. Ripley's Aquarium, the one in South Carolina at Myrtle Beach. I've been to it a few times with my family, and we enjoy it. It's a smaller aquarium, but it has a walk-through tunnel, and that was actually on my bucket list. Go into a walk-through aquarium tunnel, and so I was very excited when I found out about it. And it was pretty awesome, and they've got a Megalodon jaw replica with the jaw and the teeth, and I love standing next to it. It's taller than me. It's like wide as my arms will go, and you look at that and you think about the entire animal that is connected to it, and that animal used to exist. And I think that every now and then it's just fun to really, really fall in love with and study the big guys, because it helps put things into scale at how huge everything can be. So yeah, I like the cliche Megalodon, and yes, it is extinct, and yes, I totally have a lot of very loud things to say about the fact that Shark Week tries to keep putting these documentaries out saying that it's not extinct, it is dead. It is dead as a doornail, extinct, gone, boom. And it won't be coming back. So don't worry, you guys. You can swim in the ocean. There's a lot of things to worry about. I'm more worried about jellyfish than sharks in the ocean, personally. But Megalodon is not one of those things you need to concern yourselves over. All right, let's put these here and put these there. So that's my favorite extinct sea creature. What is my opinion on Rewilding by Nishwig? And that's actually a really good question. I think it depends on the context, and it depends on the group, and it depends on what animals you're going to try to rewild. For those of you who are not familiar with the subject of rewilding, it is trying to go to an area that used to have a certain population or population of a type of animals and restore the native flora and fauna that used to be there. And with the ones who are looking more into stabilizing ecosystems and rewilding areas, for example, reintroducing the red wolf into the east coast of the United States, I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't think it'll be viable in all areas because of how much has changed, but a lot of the mountains are still wild like they were 200 years ago, and it could probably benefit from having the red wolf reintroduced. And it would probably benefit the red wolf population because they're on the verge. They're not doing so well. So it definitely depends on what species we're talking about, for sure. Now there are some groups who want to like rewild, say, northern Canada with woolly mammoths, and that's where I feel like things are getting a little more far-reaching, because it's one thing to look at a critically endangered species or an area of an ecosystem that is threatened and try to preserve that, or at least stabilize it. I prefer the word stabilizing because the natural world doesn't preserve itself. It's constantly growing and shifting and changing. That's what the natural world does. That's why it is what it is. So I don't like the word preserving because unfortunately there's no such thing in the wild. You can like put an area in a stasis and try to like remove every invasive plant and animal, and you can try to only keep like the populations that are there, but that's not how nature works. I don't think that you should just let an area be completely destroyed either, but you also have to give it room to grow. So I prefer the idea of stabilizing an ecosystem so that it can grow, but not in a critical out of control manner that often happens when an ecosystem is overexploited, especially by humans. And not everything humans do are bad either. I actually just watched a documentary that explained how much of the Amazon was actually created by the people who used to populate the Amazon. The Amazon was not an empty, untouched forest. It's not the last bastion of wilderness in the world. It used to be a very highly populated area that had hundreds and dozens of big cities, and tens of thousands of people used to live in the Amazon. I'm not talking about tribal cities either. I'm not talking about primitive cultural established groups. I'm talking about pottery, robes, intricate jewelry, and city networks. All sorts of things like that used to be in the Amazon. And what happened is when the first European explorers showed up, there's a record of some of those cities being studied, and this man wrote about how everyone wore intricate robes. They had pottery that you could compare to the beautiful pottery from Spain, and there were so many people filling the Amazon. And when the European explorers came, they brought with them the disease, and it's estimated that up to 95 to 99% of all people who lived in that area died rapidly within 1 or 2 generations. 95%. That would be think about it. You're in a room with 100 people, and only yourself and 4 others are left alive at the end of the day. The level of emotional devastation alone, the cultural devastation alone, is unimaginable. And so what happened is that was a civilization collapsing. That's zombie apocalypse. That's alien invasion level stuff. Destruction, apocalypse level destruction of a culture, of a people, because of disease and no disease resistance. That was before the true invasions even started. That was just preliminary exploration. But man, yeah, there used to be huge cities in the Amazon. And so we think they no longer exist because 100 years later, when the really intense settlers and cultivation and colonialization started, they show up 100 years after the initial explorers, and there's trickles between then and now. And the Amazon is jungle again, because with 95% of your people gone, you can't sustain those cities anymore. You're probably going to run, trying to figure out how just to survive. And so that is kind of the true history of the Amazon in a nutshell, a very heavily nutshelled nutshell. And what people are finding is that the Amazon jungle itself is not a fertile land. It is not rich and abundant in plant life on its own. It's actually a very nutrient-poor area. So what happened is in the 1970s in Brazil and in a lot of the other countries in South America, they said, oh, this lush green jungle must be very fertile land. It must be great to make into agricultural land so we can spread our people out there. We can try to benefit our cities. We can, because you do have legitimate concerns about feeding everyone when you run a country. And if you're looking at this vast untouched forest and it looks like the perfect land to put farms on so you can grow your country, I hate the idea of deforestation, but I can be realistic about the fact that you do have to feed your people and provide an economy for your people. So they looked at this forest in the Amazon and said, oh, we can put big farms here. This is lush, fertile land. And it wasn't. They deforested a bunch of area and they tried to put down crops and nothing would really grow. And that's because there's no innate, there's very, very poor soil conditions in the Amazon, except in certain areas. And so the more that archaeologists started looking into these areas, the more they realized there used to be cities here. And as they put everything together, they found that the ancient cultural practices, which are still practiced in certain tribal communities, really tiny fragmented tribal communities, of putting natural waste into big piles, basically creating wonderful compost heaps, and creating camps and things like that. The way they would create small camps through the forest and move every couple years and make a new camp, those camps, instead of damaging the forest, actually made them stronger, When they abandoned those camps, they left behind a lot of that waste they had gathered. And we're talking natural organic waste that turns into beautiful compost. And so those areas benefited from having had those tribal groups go through and live there for a little while. And as time goes on, as you're looking at a scale of hundreds of years, the tribal groups and the cities that used to be there, with their practices, their sustained practices of creating that organic matter, that compost, on the scale and in the way they did, is what made the Amazon forest as rich and fertile as it is in certain areas. So you can go and you can look at the soil where things are really healthy, and in many cases you can find evidence of one of those cities having been there, and the soil in that area being so healthy because of the way that they had put their waste in certain areas in those cities. So it blew my mind when I learned about that, because what it meant is that the forest was so healthy because the people made it that way. And so that is right in tune with what I believe, is that if we can accept our place as having stewardship in working with the land, then we have a future with it. To try to put an area up and preserve it without touching it, without any human interaction at all, actually doesn't have the effect we hope for, the effect we desire. To actually understand that our role needs to be understanding our place in that environment and limiting our negative impact as much as possible while maximizing our positive impact as much as possible on the ecosystem is a much better way of doing things. There are certain areas that don't need us sticking our nose in it, for sure, but again, that's not realistic either. And that's kind of, I'm passionate about the environment, I'm passionate about conservation, and I'm also realistic about the social needs of the human people. They're always going to put the needs of feeding their children ahead of the needs of a panda bear. If killing that panda bear means that your kids can get the medical attention they need, then you're going to kill the panda bear. And that's why I believe that the true shift in the future is going to be figuring out a way to show everyone how you can have stewardship and you can take care of the creatures around us, of the ecosystems we live in, and also benefit from them without having to overexploit them. I think that's the future. And that's why that is kind of why rewilding is such an interesting topic to me, because in the cases where people are trying to do it in a way where you restore what was once there, that's a fun academic exercise in my mind. It might be a great educational opportunity. It might be a great novel science experiment. But life doesn't hold still. It's organic. It moves forward. Even if we don't want it to move forward in the way it does, even if we don't want it to move forward without whales, without panda bears, it does move forward. And so we can't put an ecosystem in stasis and just keep rewilding it and keep ripping out the grass that manages to find seeds there, and keep like trapping and taking away the animals that try to get in there that we don't have on the short list of things that need to be in this exact ecosystem. That's not sustainable. But making an ecosystem balanced and trying to decide what does it mean for it to be balanced and keep it stable enough that it can grow in whatever direction it's going to, and we can try to learn from that growth, that's a more viable option, I think. So that's Seri the biologist rambling. That totally went into some scientific papers. I'm blushing now. I can see myself blushing because that went into some scientific avenues I've been really excited about researching lately and that I'm thinking really hard about. So those are my current thoughts on it. And they're pretty, I guess they would be a little hard to follow if you're not into the stuff that I'm into. So I apologize. I meant to answer some of the fun like gaming questions and I just veered off to the right with some other stuff instead. But it was a wonderful opportunity to stand on top of my little soapbox. So thank you very much for letting me answer that, Nishwig. And I would love to know your opinion on rewilding. Again, I think it's kind of like bringing back extinct animals. I'm not opposed to it on any moral grounds. I just think that it's not like a viable long-term thing, and that it's more something that is sort of an offshoot of what scientific advancements we can do. It's worth pursuing just to see if we can do it. But But I don't think it's like a viable way to look at the future of like, oh, that's okay, cheetahs went extinct, we'll just clone them again. I don't think that's viable, but I do think that it could be interesting to see. You never know what research and what experiments are going to produce what results. I'm definitely opposed to a lot of things on moral grounds, but you know, I think that it wouldn't hurt to try to rewild like a certain area and study it and see what would happen. But alright, I'm going to admit to myself finally that no one wants to buy our instant lemonade bush, and go ahead and lower the price on it and check in on all of our little growing seedlings and all of the little seeds that are starting to pop up. Maybe do some more mixes, and I will be back with you guys when these guys grow up a little bit more. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye!